Hi everybody, Rick McEvoy here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, Rick McEvoy Photography. Which should be no surprise to you. So, what am I talking about this week on my photography blog? What is architectural photography? This is what I think. Okay, let's do the reading bit first. When I say reading bit, I mean the written bit. Sorry, it's one of those days. So, architectural photography is a specialism of photographing buildings and structures. The building or structure is the main subject of the photo, and the photos are used to show the subject in an aesthetically pleasing and technically correct way. Right, that's the written bit out of the way, which I would call the answer to the question. Okay, so that's it. All my own words, which is nice. So, architectural photography. This is what I do. And on my photography blog, I am now getting back to concentrating on what I do. I've taken my new podcast, Photography Explained podcast, and I put it in its own rightful home on a website called, wait for it, Photography Explained Podcast. I don't know where I come up with these, Okay, so architectural photography and construction photography are my specialism. They're what I do, they're what I write about, they're what I educate people in. I also extend that to industrial photography, which is the grittier cousin of the two. Well, architectural photography is not very gritty. Construction photography can be. Industrial photography can be very gritty. And I mean gritty in a very gritty way. I once photographed. I'm talking about industrial photography when I should be on architectural photography. So let's try and stick to the point, shall we? Okay, I'm not going to read the blog post to you. If you want to read the blog post, go to rickmcavoyphotography.com/blog and you can read it yourself. So I'm just going to go through the highlights really. I mean, it's all good stuff obviously, but first point, what is the purpose of architectural photography? Well, I work mainly for architects, product suppliers, developers, main contractors, principal contractors, as we like to call them in the trade. Yes, I am in the construction trade as well, so this is my thing. Architectural photography records a building normally on completion or 300 years after completion if somebody wants some new photos of it, but the vast majority of my architectural photography work is a building that's just been built. So I'm that lucky person who comes in right at the end after all that hard work by everybody else and gets to enjoy a building how it was designed and intended to be, and without people in it, which is even better, because if you knew me you'd know I'm a people person. I just quite like my own space. What is architecture? Let's get into this in some proper definitions. Architecture is defined as the practice of designing and constructing buildings. Therefore, architecture photography, or architectural photography, I'll come on to that in a minute, is the practice of recording the construction of buildings and their design. Okay, nice and clear. Next point, architecture photography versus architecture photography. It says in the blog post. It should say architectural, actually. That's a bit of a typo on my part. Doesn't matter. The only time that matters is when I'm trying to work out what to put in a post title for search engine results in Google. Architectural photography versus construction photography. Does this matter? Not really. The difference is that architectural photography ordinarily is photographing a completed building. Construction photography can include the live construction site. Not always, but it can do. They can be one and the same. Nothing worth getting hung up about. For architectural photography, you probably need to wear less gear than you do for going on a live construction site. Depends on the timings, obviously. How do you do architectural photography? Very well, I would say. Well, I would say that, wouldn't I? What you need to remember is that you need to get the building correct, technically correct. I'm not sure why I've got a big space over here. Maybe I should put a link in or something, but I'm not that clever. Excuse me. Architectural photography. Get your horizontals horizontal. Do that first. Then you get your verticals vertical. Now this is in camera, not in Lightroom or Photoshop. You need to record the colours, the textures, the scale, the dimensions, how things relate. It's all got to be technically correct. What makes a good architecture photo? Now I have to say that I'm quite disappointed that after all these years of being an architectural photographer, I still struggle to say the word architecture. I'm speaking in English, which is my native tongue too, which I nearly didn't say then, so maybe I need to drink more tea to get more caffeine in it, or maybe I need to go down the other road of having some, well, as the Buzzsprout podcasting guide said, ready to record, sit down, relax, and get a glass of wine, a beer, or maybe even a whiskey. Bit early for a whiskey, but not too early for a beer. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. What makes a good architecture photo? Well, it provides a aesthetically pleasing representation of a building. It's showing a building the best it can. That's my job. That's what I have to do with every shoot. There's no point making a building look terrible. The client won't thank you for it, and they won't use you again, and they probably won't pay you. So architectural photography is 99 times out of 100 making a building look the best that you can. There might be the odd time when you don't have to do that, but that'll be a rare event. How much do architectural photographers make? Well, the awful answer to most photography questions is it depends. And it depends. Depends how good you are, how experienced you are, what your portfolio's like, who you're working for, who your target market is. This varies over everyone's career progression and career path. So I charge on a half day or a day rate. Keep it nice and simple, and that includes all the time for processing and everything. I won't tell you how much I charge because that varies from job to job and client to client. Moving on from the filthy subject of money. What is the best camera for architectural photography? It depends. It's an awful answer, isn't it? Well, I'm using a Canon 6D, which I bought in 2015, which, yes, is not the best camera in the world, but when I bought it in 2014, it was a great camera. And now I'm recording this in 2021. Guess what? It is still a great camera that takes great photos, that works for me day in, day out. Why am I nodding my head? And I'm actually doing this with my hand as well. I don't know why. Don't worry about it too much. Full frame's good because you get more value out of a wide angle lens. So my setup is a Canon 6D Mark 1, not Mark 2. The Mark 2 has more stuff on it, but I don't use that stuff, so I'm fine. And the Canon 17 to 40mm lens, and I take 95% of my photos at 17mm. I've also done architectural photography shoots for clients with a Micro Four Thirds camera, an Olympus EM1 Mark II, and you don't get anywhere near the width or the amount of information in a photo. But do you know what? The client who'd had loads of photos before taken with the Canon 6D was given a set of photos taken with the Olympus Micro Four Thirds camera. Did they notice? Nope. Even worse, I got the settings wrong, which isn't great. When I had 2 hours to do the shoot before the space was handed over. I won't say where. It's on a blog post actually, so if you want to really look for it, you can find it. Just search architectural photography Olympus EM1 on my website and you'll get there, and you can find out all about it. I used the high resolution mode on the Olympus EM1, and I forgot to tell it to take the photo in RAW. So they were all JPEGs. So I came back to process my photos, and they're all JPEGs. Never done it before. I was terrified that I'd done something that I couldn't recover, but you know what? Nobody noticed or cared. So sometimes we can get a bit too het up and focused on, no pun intended, the detail of things, when at the end of the day, if the photos look great, does a client matter? Does a client matter? Of course a client matters. What I meant to say was, if the photos look great, is a client bothered? No, they're not. Never forget that. They don't care. They just want the photos. How do you shoot interior architectural photography? A lot of these questions are questions that I find when I'm doing my research into posts in Google, the questions that people have asked. So I thought it was quite useful to ask questions that other people are asking, save you having to look. And it helps me get into the search results as well. There's got to be a good reason for it. Well, check out my blog post. I'll tell you basically how I do it. How do you shoot product photos? Same way really. Construction products photos is a great thing to do. I've photographed insulation for rock wool, carpet lintels, paint for Dulux, big names. And again, technically correct. How do you edit architectural photography? Possibly the last question. Oh no, there's more. I'm going to crack on with these. Check out the blog post. Which lens is best for interior photography? I would say my Canon 17-40 lens. Other lenses are available and just as good. How many types of photography are there? Strange question. Why did it come up in this list? Who knows? Go to my blog. There's a list to the different types of photography. Actually, it's a podcast episode. Photography Explained podcast episode 32. What are the 20 most popular types of photography? Well worth a plug. For me, nobody else is going to do it for me. If I can't do it, then who can? How much should I charge as a beginner? Top tip here. This is the top tip. I'm not a fan of working for nothing, but you have to start somewhere. So if you can find someone who wants photographs taken of the building, do it for nothing, but give them an invoice and discount it from what you would like to charge down to zero, so that the client has got a value on it and it's not a free photographer. Works really well. Highly recommend it. Do you have to be qualified to be an architectural photographer? Nope. I am, and it helps. I'm an associate of the British Institute of Professional Photography, and I'm also a chartered builder. So, yeah. Right, there's a few other points. I won't take any more of your time. That's way over the target 6 minutes. So check out my blog, please. rickmcavoyphotography.com/blog. Check out my podcast, photographyexplainedpodcast.com. Obviously, I've got other videos on my YouTube channel, which are getting more and more views, which is very exciting. Thank you for watching. And I hope you found this informative, and I will see you next week for another video on a subject which I haven't quite decided on yet. So thanks for watching. Take care. See you next week. Bye.